Clay Helton's situation is firmly established. He is the head coach, marching on through future seasons, starting with 2020. So USC football can get back to prominence in the Pac-12. Got Chris Watson on the line from USC 247 Sports. Chris, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Appreciate you coming on as always. Let's start at quarterback as spring practice approaches. This time last year, it was JT Daniels and his emergence and his one season as starting quarterback, and looking forward to kind of being the franchise guy as a player who opted out of his final year in high school and really prepared himself to take over as USC quarterback. And here we are a season later, and we've got a different quarterback who's coming off a 30 touchdown season. And despite a 3-star status coming out of high school and little regarded on a big stage, that Keenen Slovis is the guy. And just your thoughts about his performance and whether there's a true quarterback battle going forward.
I think there is going to be one. I think that no matter who gets picked, there's going to be some controversy. Pretty much because you have JT Daniels, who had all that hype coming out of high school, and everybody loves, all the fans love the 5-star thing, and they think that guy's going to be the next guy and a first-round NFL draft pick and that kind of stuff. He struggled a lot his freshman year. JT Daniels did not play well. It was a different offense, a different offensive coordinator who's gone now. But he did not live up to the hype. He was only a freshman, but he didn't look like what he should have looked like. Then, year two with the air raid with Graham Harrell, it was supposed to take off for him. He got hurt in the first game. That's, things happen. He's been a little bit injury prone. And then obviously it gave Keenen Slovis a chance to show what he can do. And Keenen Slovis lived up to every expectation anyone could possibly have for him and surpassed it. So that's where we are now. Is Clay Helton going to roll with the guy that already kind of proved himself, even though the USC lost 5 games last year and the offense didn't look great at points. Keenen Slovis played pretty much as well as you could expect a freshman quarterback to play. And so are you going to pick that guy, or are you going to go back to the 5-star and give him a chance? I think that it's going to cause controversy. I really do, because if Clay Helton goes with JT Daniels, it's going to look like he kind of turned on a guy that might have saved his job in a way. I know USC lost 5 games, but when JT Daniels went down and they put in a true freshman, it seemed like the season was going to be over. And it turned out that Clay Helton kept his job pretty much because of how well the offense played for USC. So is he going to pick the guy that helped save his job, or is he going to go back to Daniels? And then if he does pick Slovis, I'm sure that a lot of people will say, hey, JT Daniels didn't get a chance to play in this offense. He didn't get a chance to be in the air raid and put up all those huge numbers. And there will be people that think that JT Daniels is the better quarterback. So it's kind of a no-win situation for Clay Helton. It's going to be really interesting going forward. I think that the best case scenario for the USC coaching staff is that there's just one quarterback that is the clear-cut better quarterback, after spring, after fall camp. And it just kind of makes the decision easy for them that the media is on their side and everyone agrees. I think that's the best case scenario. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't, just because I think JT Daniels is capable of looking good in this offense. I thought he looked pretty good in the first game of the season last season. And I know Keenen Slovis can do it in this offense. So I think it's going to be a real close race.
Yeah, the easy take is that Daniels struggled the previous season and that Slovis took off and really only had the one game in which he made some critical mistakes on the road against BYU, and otherwise he was lights out for the most part and looks like a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the nation. But you mentioned the change in offensive philosophy and Graham Harrell coming in and JT Daniels not having the advantage of playing a full season in that offense, and so that possibly being a huge difference. Which leads us to the running back position, Chris, in regards to a staple for USC. And the last star we saw at that position was, of course, Ronald Jones. We expected Stephen Carr to be that guy. And now we've just got a different offensive philosophy where the running back is de-emphasized as a running back out of the backfield and more of a 70-30, 65-35 run pass ratio in favor of the pass. So set us up at running back for USC, because it certainly didn't provide the productivity that it needs, even in this pass happy air raid offense.
Yeah, it's not so much of a staple anymore for USC, even though it's running back you. It seems like they've really gone away from focusing on the run game, and they're so pass heavy now that it's kind of hard to figure out what they want to do there. They only had a couple of games last season where a running back went over 100 yards. It did not happen very often. And as you said, some of these guys that were big name recruits a few years ago when they came in before the air raid, they haven't really lived up to what they were supposed to be. You mentioned Stephen Carr. He's been injury prone. So I feel like the backfield's kind of in the same position it's been in at least last year, maybe for the last couple of years, where it seems like you have some upperclassmen that have experience and are talented guys, but they've never become anything. They've never become the stars that everybody expects them to become when they're so highly ranked coming out of high school and when they're going to play football at USC. And then you have a couple of guys underneath them, like a Marquis Stepp or a Keenen Kristen, that really proved themselves in a couple of scenarios last year. And so you come into spring and the likely scenario, it seems like, just judging what this coaching staff does normally is, hey, they're going to pick their favorites and they're going to pick the older guys and it's going to be the same guys. But I think it could be different. I think maybe it should be different. I think that if you looked at, some of the games that Marquis Stepp had last year, I think he should have been the starter. And then when Kristen got a chance to carry the ball against Arizona, people were talking about how he looked like the next Reggie Bush, which I think is clearly an overstatement. But, he showed some serious explosiveness. So it's going to be one to watch because who's going to get hurt? That can happen in the offseason with running backs. Who's going to fit into the offense the best? Who's going to, carry the ball the best? Is the coaching staff, are they going to play their favorites with the older guys, which seems to be a case that happens a lot. So I think it's definitely one position to keep an eye on, even though there hasn't been much change there. And there hasn't been really a lot of change across the entire USC roster. They return a lot of people. But I think running back is a spot where you could potentially see a shakeup where one of these younger guys maybe proves to be the best option.
Stepp at 6.5 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns on the ground last year, and Kristen at 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, both around 300 yards rushing. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down USC with the help of Chris Swanson. Catch him on USC247.com. Chris has joined us in the past as a wealth of information, knowledge, insight on USC football and recruiting as well. The offense, if you get quarterback play like you got out of Keenen Slovis, and he actually, with a full offseason, cycles into an even better quarterback and more comfortable in the offense, the wide receiver core is elite, is just tremendous. And then, of course, you lose the left tackle in Austin Jackson. But other than that, the offensive line generally coming back?
They return a lot there. I think the left tackle is the huge question because Austin Jackson was clearly their best offensive lineman, and he's going to have a pretty good selection in the NFL draft, it looks like. So how do you replace that position? That's such an important position. Is it going to be Jalen McKenzie? Is it going to be Andrew Voorhees, who has experience at tackle? Are they going to maybe flip somebody from the right tackle to left tackle? There's a lot of different scenarios there. Maybe a young guy, maybe, after spring practice and fall camp, they just say, hey, you know what, we have a hole there, and, this freshman gives us the best chance. Who knows? Who knows what could happen there? But that's the biggest question mark for this team right now, and it might not matter that much because I think that the offense is designed to avoid sacks and to get the ball out so quickly that maybe it doesn't matter as much as it did in the past if USC doesn't have a strong offensive line. But that's the biggest question mark because, as you said, the offense, potential to be explosive, even missing Michael Pittman, they're going to have a good, group of receivers, that'll stand out in the Pac-12 at least. All the running backs come back, the rest of the line comes back. So left tackle, if they can figure that out, if that can be okay, they can make strides from last year and maybe even improve in their offensive statistics. But that's the biggest question mark for this team, I think, outside of coaching changes and that whole thing coming into the offseason is coaching is probably number one, the biggest question. And then the second biggest question is what's going to happen at left tackle.